Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Here we are. We're back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, creeping closer to kickoff. College football is right around the corner. We got a little grilling of Golic to do this morning and a lot of football conversation. Plus, Stanton does it again. The Royals finally score. Isaiah Thomas tells everyone to chill. And wait till you hear how a former football player you remember is getting his side hustle on. All those and more on the morning menu. How we doing, big fella?
I'm doing well. College football starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
With Ohio State and Indiana. Other games, obviously, as well. NFL right around the corner. I saw the finale of Game of Thrones, so I'm all caught up.
Yesterday's the day that you watched
I actually saw it Monday.
Okay.
I saw it, so I got all scored. I had to see it right away. It's my own fault. There was a lot of things going on Twitter about giving out spoilers, and as some noted, in the sports world, guys that I follow, former linemen like Jeff Schwartz and Chris Long, who's playing now, obviously, with the Eagles, talking about, hey, a season finale, man, that's like a live event. You watch it live, or you better hide from Twitter. And that's what I did. I didn't see it live, so I hid from Twitter until I saw it. And I agree. So I had to see it to get it out of the way, so I didn't have to hide from Twitter anymore.
So you're good with that?
Good with that.
Caught up there. Caught up mostly on all of the fallout from McGregor and Mayweather, sort of bearing down now for Triple G and Alvarez. For those of you who weren't with us late in the show yesterday, we had Oscar De La Hoya on. And he was. I would describe him as sort of non-committal on anything in our conversation with him. I was expecting a little more explanation on his part of why he was opposed to the fight happening last weekend. He basically just kept saying over and over again, look, that's one discipline, the other's another discipline. They should just stay apart, which we all get at its base level.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually, as we discussed yesterday late in the program, I think it's going to wind up elevating. What happened last weekend
I think it could.
Was a win, the magnitude such that I think it could actually wind up rising the pay-per-view buys for the fight in 3 weeks.
If it helps jump one, then it helped. We may differ on the number we think it may help. I think they're two totally separate things, that there's reasons you either are going to say, I have the money to get them both, I want to get them both. One is one thing, was a show. The other is an actual fight, the sweet science, and you want to watch it. That was kind of my thought process. But listen, if it bumps it by 1, by 10, by 20, I mean, I don't think it's going to net go down because of it. I think those that saw the fight Saturday, I don't think they're going to say they saw that and then, now I don't want to watch the other one because I saw that. So I don't think that's going to happen.
No, the only concern was does everyone have $200 to put down on pay-per-views?
Well, this one isn't going to be $100, though, right?
No, I don't know that. It probably won't. I don't know what it will cost.
I don't think it's going to be over $69, be $59 or $69. I'm going to say it's going to be right in that wheelhouse of what those fights normally are.
Fair enough.
I don't know for a fact.
But either way, I will say this, that I was going to buy the one in a few weeks anyway because I feel like we should see it for our job. I'm actually more interested and more excited to watch that than I was otherwise.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not any more excited because of what happened Saturday. I have completely separated those two. What I'm trying to find out is when I bought both fights, can I write them both off?
I think the answer is yes.
You think so?
I do.
All right.
I'm not 100% sure of that, but
that's the win, isn't it?
On some level, it's a win. Look, Mayweather got $300 million out of it, and you could save
I could save a couple of bucks. Are you kidding me? It's a win.
That's a win-win situation, which candidly is one more win than the Jets are going to have this year. Let's get to business.
Back to the Jets.
Off the top, every single day we start with this. Giancarlo Stanton hit a home run. It was his 51st of the year.
Yeah, he is the third player in baseball history to hit 18 home runs in a calendar month, too shy of matching Sammy Sosa. So he has tied Rudy York, who did it in 1937, in August of 37. Stanton did it, obviously, in August of this year. Sosa did it in June of 98. That year, I believe he hit 66
He did.
Home runs.
He hit 20 home runs in June. He had 66 home runs for the year.
So, I mean, this is about numbers. He also has 30 home runs since the start of July. That gives him sole possession of second most home runs in consecutive calendar months in baseball history. First, you go back to 1995, Albert Bell in August and September hit 31 home runs. So, obviously, Stanton still has time since September 1st isn't until Friday.
Off the top.
Elsewhere, did you stay up and watch this match last night? Did you see any of Federer last night?
I did not.
Roger Federer
I didn't
got
expect
pushed.
this.
No one expected it. Got pushed to 5 sets by a 19-year-old American who was coming on fast, and a lot of people in the tennis world are familiar with. Federer gets pushed to 5 sets, winds up winning and coming out of it. A really good night for tennis, I think, all the way around. Maybe not so good for Federer because history says if you go 5 sets in the first round, you don't win.
Yeah, 4 times in his career that Federer went to a 5th set in the first round of a major, including only the second time when he was seeded. To go to Greeny's point, only 2 players in the Open era have won the U.S. Open after playing 5 sets in their opening match. That would be John Newcombe back in 1973 and Patrick Rafter in 1998. So that's what Federer is going against. Remember, there's a whole lot of guys that are out of this tournament, so his road, technically, without question, is a little easier to get there.
Off the top.
The Westgate Las Vegas Superbook yesterday released over-unders on win totals for every NBA team. And maybe a little later this morning we'll go through a few of these in more detail. But no surprise, the Warriors lead the way at 67.5. So I will just ask you right now, are you going over or under on 67.5 wins for Golden State?
I mean, I think they're so over, not to, pun on that, the 73 or that kind of thing, that you play the season now just to make sure you're ready for the playoffs. But now they've made the season longer. They've done those things in the schedule where maybe you won't have to rest players like you did. So I think I would go over that. I would still go over the 67.5. Next was the Celtics at 56.5. Then the Rockets at 55.5, Spurs 54.5. Cavaliers were actually second in the conference behind the Celtics there at 53.5. The biggest jump last season, the over-under for the 76ers was 27.5 games. This year, it's 42.5, so they jumped 15 games. That's the biggest jump. Largest increase from actual wins. Minnesota won 31 games last year. Their projection is 48.5 wins, so that's a plus 17.5.
I'll go over on Minnesota. I'll go under on the Sixers, unfortunately. And I hope I'm dead wrong on that because I'd love to see that team come together. But you're going to tell me that Joel Embiid is going to be out there all year long?
Well, Embiid, you got Simmons now coming back.
Let's root for Simmons, and we'll see what Markelle Fultz is as a rookie. But at the end of the day, that team will go. That team is only going to win more games than it loses if Embiid is on the floor.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it this year. I think they're building something, but I don't think it's happening next year. Now, again, 42 wins doesn't mean they've peaked out or anything.
What I'm saying is, if you told me Joel Embiid is going to be healthy all year, I'll go over.
Right.
I believe they will be they will win more than half their games.
So we have no idea.
I don't think you can bet on that in any way.
Off the top.
All right, we're going to go through a bunch of the Harvey-related influences on sports here. Among them, the University of Houston postpones its college football opener that was going to be played in San Antonio. There are a lot of different areas where this is impacting sports. And as we'll continue to say, that's obviously the least of it here. But we're a sports show, so we'll go through them.
Yeah, and right now the Houston Texans desperately want to play their home opener, which is next Sunday. They want to play it in Houston. Not many days away. They want to play it in Houston, so we'll get it, as Greeny said, we'll get into that a little more.
Off the top.
And then finally, Zeke Elliott's hearing, which began yesterday at the NFL offices, his appeal hearing on his 6-game suspension is expected to last through Thursday, and then they can hand in briefs as late as Friday. And there isn't really a limit on how long Harold Henderson has to think about this. So the way the beginning of the season plays out, I think, becomes very interesting here.
I mean, I have to believe that if you're going to have an appeals process before someone is going to be suspended, they have to know before the season actually starts.
You would think, but I mean, they took forever to get to where they got.
No way. I mean, you're just giving the union. Well, wait a minute, you're going to suspend. Well, then obviously I get. He could play week 1 if you don't have any.
That's what I mean.
Right.
I don't mean that he won't. I'm sure Henderson will rule sometime next week. But, I mean, it's Labor Day, and I don't know that makes any difference necessarily. But if they're still filing briefs, if I read the story correctly, the final briefs are due on Friday. The appeals hearing will continue through Thursday. The briefs get handed in on Friday. Do they read those? Do they not even bother reading those? I mean, how long does it take to read all of the briefs? I know they're brief, but they're not that brief.
I don't think there's any doubt that this ruling comes down on the appeal before the first game. Now,
before the first game, yeah, but Wednesday, Thursday,
and the process there is
Sunday.
Is Zeke playing or is he not playing? Am I practicing him or the other guy's practicing? Who goes in? It has not been a pretty situation from a timing standpoint.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't mean to say that they won't know by Sunday.
Right.
But I mean, will they know by Monday? Will they know by Wednesday? That's really what I meant. I'm sure it'll happen at some point in next week, but will it be the very beginning of the week or not? Mike and Mike, our Off the Top is presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive Insurance than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com. Now, that's Progressive. Going through the roundup, if you will, of ways in which the sports world is being impacted by Harvey down there in Houston. Certainly no more than, J.J. Watt, what can you even say? He's a person that some people have taken to liking to poke fun at in recent years. And look, maybe some of that he brought on himself.
Sure.
I don't know one way or the other.
But you don't deny he's a great player, and you don't deny what he's doing right now and raising money.
Do you tip your cap to that guy?
Absolutely. A lot of people are jumping in and giving money without question. But obviously in our sports world, talking about athletes, where J.J. Watt started with his goal of $500,000, or where's he now? His goal now?
Over $5 million.
He's over $5 million. Just keeps
6.
jumping his goal up. And listen, there are so many people that are giving money, and what J.J.'s doing here is fantastic, and it's obviously it's great to see, and so many are doing well. It is interesting. Because I know you first brought this up when we started talking about Harvey on Monday and the devastation. And one of the things you said, especially in these times that we are right now, in the country that seems so divided, it is somewhat interesting. It was 21 hours ago, Damian Woody tweeted, sitting here having coffee with wifey and talking about why does it take a natural disaster for us to truly love thy neighbor. It was I thought that was, just kind of caught me maybe at the right time of reading it. Because you really see it when it gets really, really tough. And a lot of people are affected by things through no fault of their own, i.e. the natural disaster, and how the human spirit just comes out and everybody just jumps in and wants to help. And, you see that with people with money, donating money, raising money, and other people. I'm watching the news here in Connecticut. They're loading up trucks, and people are getting ready to drive them down to Houston. That's everybody kind of mobilizes, and says, okay, what can we do to help? And it's just good to see it. It is a shame, though, that you only see it when there's such devastation that goes on, and you try and get it in everyday life, and I'm sure there are examples of that everywhere, but you really see it now. But unfortunately, the disastrous pictures far outweigh some of the other things that you're seeing right now, just seeing what people are going to go through and how long they're going to go through it.
Look, I don't want to get on a soapbox on that subject, but I feel that one of the things that we should recognize when we see that stuff is that the overwhelming decency of the majority of the people of this country is on display, and the very noisy few are the ones who get most of the attention most of the time. And that, I think, is more than anything is what is actually going on here, that most people are those people who are actually out and finding rowboats and trying to save people and dogs and other animals here. And most of those people are good, decent, civil people all of the time. They just don't get microphones thrown in their face because it doesn't make for a nearly as compelling broadcast. So that's my one little soapbox moment on that, but let's not get sidetracked by that. Meanwhile, the Texans, you mentioned how they want to play their home game on Sunday. You realize several of their players are not even with the team. Did you see this story? Several injured players on the Texans did not make the trip for their last game to New Orleans, and those players, which include DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, are now stuck in Houston.
Right.
Bill O'Brien says the team is doing what it can for those players, in some cases getting them hotel rooms. If their homes are flooded, they're in touch with them, according to the Houston Chronicle. O'Brien said they're in touch with them 2 or 3 times each day. Sometimes the issue is cell service and being able to reach them on their phone and all of that. But they're talking about playing a football game there in 10 days. They can't even get in touch with these guys most of the time.
And I get it. You hear the players talking about how it could be a healing moment and how they think it could help. And I get all that. We went over some examples yesterday. We were in New Orleans for the first game after Katrina and just saw what a spark it was for that city. So I understand exactly what they're saying, but first you have to decide, can a football game be played there? Can all the players be there to play it? And then the biggest thing is all the ancillary people that you need to put on a football game. It's not just 22 players and coaches and referees. You need a whole lot of people involved, and I'm not down there. I have no idea. I mean, there's a whole lot of other things that need to get done for the next months and years, before they veer off into that road of putting on a football game. So I have no clue. I get the want to. I understand it. And I know there's a lot of people saying, who cares? It's sports. We got real life. I get it. But from those athletes' side of it, if they can do even more good, if they can have a game there, if people can go there for 3 hours, if they can raise more money, there are things to do. But, man, that's we're talking 10 days away. I mean, I have no idea about anything else that could happen to actually for what it takes to put on a sporting event.
Look, sitting here almost 2,000 miles away, it's very easy for me to say that there was such a simple solution to this problem, if indeed it is a problem, which is they're playing Jacksonville. We covered this yesterday. They're in the same division. They play each other twice. The second game is the second to last weekend of the season. You could so easily flip those games. And it just strikes me that would be the easy and obvious solution here, and not have to try and rush to get a game. And now, if you're going to tell me there are some tangible benefits,
that's the thing,
to the community of playing this game at home, they're going to play the game either way. It's not like the Astros, who just lost some home games or anything like that. This game will get played. The Texans will still be playing that day. It'll just be on television, which most of the people watch it on anyway. So I understand it's not a home game. And again, if the community wants it and they can get it done, then great.
I think that's
God
the point.
you.
I think everybody understands the easy option is to just flip it, but I think what the players are saying is we would rather not do that. We would rather play the game. And again, what we're saying is we have no clue if you're going to be able to do it. That, of course, is the easy answer. That's obvious to just flip those things. But they want to play it. They want to play it because it's going on now. They want to see if it can help now. They want to see what it can ease now if they can pull it off. I have no idea if they can or can't. It seems awfully tough to think that they would be able to do that with everything that needs to go on. But then again, I'm not there.
Well, right now in the football stadium, they have thousands of people, right? I mean, there are thousands of people who are there using it as a shelter. So, again, look, if they can do it and the community wants it and everyone there feels that way, then do it. I mean, God bless you that. Who am I to say not to? But it just feels to me like that's quite a goal. I mean, look, maybe setting a goal of that kind to work towards.
Yeah.
But in the big picture, well, look, we'll just see. Whatever they decide to do is obviously fine with me. J.J. Watt, meanwhile, the Texans will play they were supposed to play a preseason game tomorrow night at home against the Cowboys. That game has been moved to Dallas. We had heard previously that J.J. Watt really didn't want that game to be played, or if it were to be played, just to make it a fundraiser. He doesn't seem to have changed his mind.
I think the only good thing that can possibly come out of a game on Thursday would be a massive fundraiser. That's about the best case scenario that could come from a game on Thursday, if it raised multi-millions of dollars. Other than that, I don't see it being. This is bigger than football. It's bigger than a game. It's bigger than any of us. So we need to make sure that we're thinking about these victims in the city of Houston before anything else.
Listen, I would agree. You can use it as a big fundraiser. I think a lot of people, I think there's a lot of things that are going on that are geared toward helping the people that are most affected by this, and a football game can be that way. I get what he's saying, though. And listen, this is a game that's more important to back-end roster guys than it is to starters. We know that. We've been talking about the value or lack of value of preseason games. So I understand what he's saying. It's just a matter, I guess, what else can they be doing? Can they be doing other things right now? I mean, this is unfortunately, we've seen a few natural disasters through our time doing this show and how people are coming together and what you need to do. But I understand why they're just going on and doing this and going to take going to go to Dallas and going to play the game. But to JJ's point, you can use it to raise money, raise goods, do something to help the situation.
And they have. The Texans announced the money made from the game against the Cowboys will be donated to the United Way of Greater Houston Relief Fund. Tickets will be on sale at Ticketmaster.com for $25, and there'll be no ticket fees. We should mention also the Rangers and Astros did play their first game at Tropicana yesterday. 3,485 people were in attendance. All the tickets were $10, and proceeds will go to victims of Hurricane Harvey. So, I mean, everyone is helping in whatever way they can. That whole thing with the Rangers and the Astros yesterday was uncomfortable. It was really an unfortunate thing that worked out that way. I spent a lot of the rest of the day thinking about it. Because as the day went on, I started thinking to myself, we got mad at the Rangers, and Stu Gatz kind of got me fired up talking about it. And you could say, did the Rangers organization turn their backs? they didn't turn their backs on the victims of the hurricane, right?
No.
They just changed around a baseball game. It wasn't the worst thing anyone has ever done.
It was not the worst.
I think they should have done it differently, but maybe the yelling and the screaming we could have done with that.
Again, this was an optics thing, right?
And it was a Stugatz thing. I thought I was reasonable about it at the beginning of the show, and then we get Stugatz on, and he gets me fired up, and the next thing you know, I'm yelling.
Well, it's because both you end up talking about the Jets, so you end up both getting mad, and you end up both yelling, and I end up wanting to leave.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Giancarlo Stanton, 51 and counting. He's the third player in history to hit 18 home runs in a calendar month. As Mike told you, Sammy Sosa has the record. He hit 20 home runs in a month. It was in June when he did it. And, of course, Stanton here doing it in August and chasing 60 or 62, and we'll see where he winds up. Elsewhere, Chris Sale, another milestone in baseball last night, struck out 11 in a 3-0 win over the Blue Jays. He's the first pitcher in history to reach 1,500 career strikeouts in fewer than 1,300 innings.
It's great. I'm having a hard time rooting for him because I want Kluber to win the Cy Young. So is it wrong for me to want Sale to get blown up?
No, of course not.
Okay, cool.
That team is your rival right now.
Yeah.
They're going to play
in the first round.
They're going to play each other, we would think, in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. So, hey, Chris, congrats, whatever.
Look, that guy, I tell you what,
fantastic.
He's unbelievable.
I know, he is.
And what else do we have
Just
here?
don't put any crazy jerseys in front of him. He's playing, so he'll cut him up.
If the one terrible thing he ever did was cut up the jerseys because they didn't like him, at the end of the day, it's not such a terrible thing. And what else? Zeke Elliott's hearing will last through Thursday, according to our Adam Schefter. The appeal began yesterday. It's being held at an undisclosed location. Again, briefs can be filed through Friday, and the question then becomes, how quickly does Harold Henderson come back with a decision? Seems impossible to imagine his suspension is going to get reduced from 6 games to none.
Right. No, that's not happening.
So I think the Cowboys would be best served to be prepared to not have him week one.
I would say the best you could hope for is 6-4. And I don't even think that's happening. I think it stays at 6.
Sports Center brought to you by CFP.
Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. You want more info? Go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
All right, we're Mike and Mike, and all the Twitter reaction as every morning comes through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. And today we're throwing out the Grill Golics. We're getting ready. College football kickoffs are literally around the corner, and then the NFL starts next week. So if you have questions about your team, college or pro, start sending them in. Use the hashtag Grill Golic, and we'll go through them all morning long. And Andrea put it up earlier, so we have a few of them here. And there's just 2 that jumped out at me.
Go ahead.
We'll work our way to some other business. Sure. Matthew Baldwin tweets, if Nick Saban took over a struggling NFL team, i.e. the Jaguars or the Jets, would he be able to turn them into a playoff team within 3 years?
Don't know. I mean, listen, he had his stint in the NFL. It wasn't a great stint by any stretch of the imagination. There are some coaches that are better suited for one or the other. We've seen a few have success in both. I know the first that comes to mind is a guy like Jimmy Johnson.
Yep.
Success he had at the U, and then obviously in the NFL with the Cowboys. So I don't know. With Nick Saban's style that works with 18 to 22-year-olds, is it going to work with 22 to 40-year-olds? That's a question. There's no doubt what he's doing is making him be considered the greatest college coach of all time, but you can't just say that translates to the next level when he's already been there. Now, I would imagine he might do things a little differently if he goes back. I don't think he's ever going back. I don't think he's going to try the NFL again. So to answer your question, it's not as easy as saying he's a great coach in college. He can go turn an NFL team around. No way you can just say that, flip a switch, and say that can happen. No.
There are different skills because the primary thing, now everyone raves, and I'm less equipped to analyze this than you are and many others, about the way he develops players, that he brings in really talented players and he makes them better. You look at the list of recruits that teams get. A lot of teams get all these 4- and 5-star recruits and they don't wind up getting drafted into the NFL.
Right.
Now that, again, the way these players in high school are assessed, I'm sure, is imperfect. But a factor in that, of course, is player development. So he's doing that. But first and foremost, the winning in college, it's about getting the players.
Well,
you choose all your players.
You have to get the players, and the getting ready is a little different. In college, you can still get after it a lot. You can get after it,
meaning practice-wise.
Practice-wise, and the NFL that they have through the CBA, the last CBA, and this is something that players want, and they got it. You're backed off of that a little bit from the very strenuous, a lot of hitting. Now, some coaches will hit more than others. Don't get me wrong. There's some hitting, but there's a big difference of the college level to the pro level on how much that goes in preparation.
I've actually come to the conclusion, however, that you are right. Not only is Saban not going to the NFL, which at one time I thought he would, I actually have come around to believing that he's going to finish his career at Alabama now. I really did think eventually he'd leave, and I don't. And part of that now is a function of his age, as simple as anything else. He's starting to get to a point now where I think to start something over again, it's not by no means impossible. He's the youngest. What is he, 66? Did we decide? He's the youngest looking man of his age I've ever seen, and he seems very healthy and all of that. But, 67, 68 years old, to start something new just feels a little bit unlikely.
Yeah. And I guess the point would be if he's not going to the NFL, there's no way he's going to a different college. I mean,
for a while I thought he would.
Why?
I really did.
I mean,
just because he seems like a guy who might jump around a little.
I never thought that. When that talk came around about Texas, I couldn't have scoffed at that more than that happening. He's got the best program going on in college right now. Anywhere he goes in college is a step down. Anywhere he goes, correct? It is a step down.
Well, I mean, again, based upon where he has Alabama right now,
that's all that matters.
Also creates a series of expectations where last year was a disappointment.
Right.
What were they, 14-0, and then they lose in the championship game on the last second, and their season is a disappointment.
Right.
Where if he goes someplace else, Alabama wasn't Alabama before Saban got there.
But do you think Nick Saban, getting to know Nick Saban, how we have, and not even that great, but knowing him, that he would leave there to say, okay, at least here I can lose 3 games and take a deep breath? He's not that guy. There's no way he's doing that.
There's two different things. I agree with you now. He's not going to. But I think that there are two different ways of looking at the challenge. That I think some coaches probably enjoy the challenge of building something, of taking a program that's what he did. I mean, people talk about Alabama like they've been at, like it went from Bear Bryant directly to Nick Saban.
It did not.
There were a lot of time in between there, including, I mean, what was the embarrassment with the coach who was there, didn't even coach a game and all that? I don't want to say the name out loud because I can't remember it now in my head. I'll get it wrong. But you know what I'm talking about. And I mean, he took Alabama from a program with all the history in the world, and they won a championship under Gene Stallings. But they weren't Alabama until he got there again. So he could go someplace else and build that. And some people might enjoy that. They might enjoy the challenge of building. What I'm saying is that he's going to be 66 years old this fall. So the soonest we could be talking about, he'd be 67, 68. Do you want to start building something at that stage in your life? My guess is he will not.
60, I didn't think he was going anywhere. So I don't think he's going anywhere but finishing his career at Alabama.
The Spazman tweet.
Spazman.
I'll get back to that one. Let me hold that because that's going to be a longer conversation. And I want to get into the Isaiah
is this about
Thomas.
food?
Yeah, it is about food. Get the grills going. Hashtag Grill Golic. Send them in, college or pro. We want to hear your questions all morning long. And remember, the baseball playoffs are around the corner. And tonight we got baseball. Diamondbacks and Dodgers, presented by Indeed.com. Coverage starts 9 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. Isaiah Thomas gave an interview to our Adrian Wojnarowski, and Golic will tell you that nothing he said was even remotely surprising.
Holy smart! You want to talk about the most meaningless headline of all time? What was his exact quote? I basically
I'm not damaged.
I'm not damaged. He told,
I'll be back and I'll be the same player.
I'm not damaged. I'll be back and I'll be the same player, said the man who in this summer is eligible for free agency and get a max deal. Here's you. If you held a microphone to an Isaiah Thomas in a body cast, he would have given you the exact same line. And it's exactly what he should do. Any athlete would have. It doesn't matter what your injury, as long as you weren't out the entire season, you would say, I'm not damaged, I'm fine, all is good. Subtweeting there or subconsciously saying, hey, come summertime, I'm going to be all good to get my max deal. I read that and I just chuckled saying, are you kidding me? What do you think he's going to say? Even, quite honestly, even if he didn't have the max sitting there at the end of the summer, I think any athlete would say, I'm fine. Rarely do you get them where they say, well, this is still nagging me a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on. I may be damaged goods. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And in this case, with what's waiting for him at the end of the rainbow come summertime, that one made me chuckle a little bit.
So Cavs, Celtics, we told you earlier, the over-unders from Vegas came in, and the Celtics are projected to have more wins than the Cavaliers. Let me ask you this. if by some accident, and no one expects this to happen, because from what we're hearing, the Cavaliers have basically thrown in the towel and trying to get additional compensation based upon the medicals. That probably was always their plan. The medicals could have shown anything. They could have shown he'll be back, in a day and a half,
right.
And they would have said, "Oh, this is not what we expected. We want more compensation."
Right.
And the Celtics are always going to say no. So if anything does get thrown into this, it's probably going to be a second round,
late
pick
first,
or
second round, something like that. Yeah.
So let's just say that's it. If for whatever reason, which way would you have bet on the Celtics to win more games? With Kyrie Irving or with the players that they traded away? Meaning with Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. Because one of the big pieces they traded away is a draft pick who wasn't going to impact the season either.
So basically it's Kyrie for those two with Gordon Hayward, Horford.
Adding those guys. But you already have them.
That's right. You lost Zizic.
Yeah, they don't have Ante Zizic anymore.
They don't.
So would you bet right now the Cavaliers will win more games, the Celtics will win more games, and if they had not made the trade, would it have been the same?
The square off to me is I'd rather have Kyrie over Isaiah. So that means Jay Crowder. Is Jay Crowder going to? How many wins
does he make up the difference between Kyrie and Isaiah?
I
think he does.
I almost think it would be within 2 games of one another, whether it's this group or the previous group, right around the wins. I think it would be that close to one another.
I feel like Isaiah Thomas is getting short-shrifted in this. I think that the season that he had, and look, I love Kyrie Irving. I was the one sitting here telling you before this trade happened, before we knew he was going to get traded, that I thought he was the second best player in the Eastern Conference, and I thought he was behind LeBron James and still is. But we're acting as though Isaiah Thomas, because of his size, is I get not wanting to give him $200 million. But he did finish 5th in the MVP voting last year, and if you had only counted the fourth quarters of games, he probably would have finished 1st. So if Isaiah Thomas does come back and he is fully healthy and he is all of himself, I think the Cavaliers are better next year than they were last year, because I think the difference between Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving is not as big as Jay Crowder. He's a valuable piece. I don't know how hard the Cavaliers are going to go after wins, because we know LeBron's going to rest a lot of games. I actually think the Cavaliers are better this coming year than they were last year.
I get what you're saying about Isaiah Thomas, but who'd you rather have, Isaiah or Kyrie?
I'd rather have Kyrie.
All right. I mean,
what
that pretty much says it all.
But you're also adding Jay Crowder.
Oh, no, Jay, that's why I said Jay Crowder's the difference guy.
Right.
But I'm telling you, the old lineup, the new lineup, a difference of 2 wins either way.
Right, but I believe the Cavaliers, if they wanted to, would win the Eastern Conference. If the Cavaliers weren't if they weren't going to.
You mean this year or last year?
This coming year.
Yeah, last year they could have.
Probably true.
I mean, so with the different ones. So I don't think it matters.
I guess what I'm saying is I look at the over-unders. That's the hard part to factor in, is how many games is LeBron going to play in the new schedule they've concocted that is designed for fewer rests.
The over-under is only for the rest, as far as I'm concerned with the Cavaliers. If the Cavaliers want to be over that and they want to be the number 1 seed, that's exactly what they'll be.
So what I'm asking is, with the new schedule that they've concocted, where they're now trying to minimize the amount of resting, maybe they do rest fewer games.
Maybe.
And if they do, I believe the Cavaliers
That I have no idea.
That
I have no idea, but that's what it's going to come down to.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT, home, safe home.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shades.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
I will side with Herbie on the thing with Michigan. I'll say this. I understand that the object is just winning. And whether you lose close or you don't lose, or you lose in blowouts, at the end of the day, you lost. But what I will say is if you look at the 6 games that Harbaugh has lost since he got to Michigan, the first one was his very first game coaching that team. The next one was a Michigan State game that his team had won. I'm not making excuses, but they lost on that crazy punt play at the end. Then they got blown out by Ohio State. That was the only game that they gotten blown out since he's been there. And last year, their 3 losses came by a combined 5 points, one of which featured what I thought was just terrible officiating. But forgetting even that, I feel like they are incredibly close. And I agree with Herbie. He took over a brand that had really fallen, and they have gotten up under him. I believe they're up.
Here's my point. My point wasn't that he didn't turn them around. My point wasn't where they had been and where they are now, and that he put them back in the spotlight. That's not my point at all. I don't think they're going to play for the Big Ten title this year. I don't think they're going to be in the playoffs. So when you think of Michigan, you think of a great Michigan teams, right? You think of Michigan battles with Ohio State. So if this year rolls around again, and this year they don't finish better than third in their division, I don't care if they lose 5 games by 2 points. You know what that does? You know what that gives you? So what? And if they lose to Ohio State again, so come talk to me after this year if they have the same kind of year. I mean, at some point you say, yeah, he's turned the program around. Yeah, he's put him back in the spotlight. Yeah, he gets in the headlines because he's a quirky guy. This is Michigan. Michigan, this isn't some smaller school that he's trying to lift up. This isn't P.J. Fleck trying to bring Minnesota into the Big Ten and trying to build that team. This is Michigan. So at what point do you say, yeah, all that stuff's cute and good, but you know what we need to do? Beat Ohio State. You know what we need to do? We need to be playing for the Big Ten championship. How many years can go by before you start to go, all right, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's Harbaugh. He's got the khakis. He's got the headlines. We don't know who the starting quarterback is. Oh, he's putting up the roster from last year. When does the cute not become cute anymore?
I'm not even looking at the cute, though. To me, I understand what you were saying.
No, but that's why people are liking it right now, because you say one of the great teams, okay, he's turned them around, but they've never finished better than third. They haven't played in the Big Ten championship. That's where he's trying to get them back to. So my point is, what's the leeway for that before we headline him to, oh, look at him sleeping over a kid's house, you know, a recruit trying to get him. Oh, look at him taking his team to wherever the heck he's going to take him next time. When do we stop with all of that and say, you know what they need to do is they need to win more?
Well, I mean, obviously, they've won a lot is what I'm trying to say.
They need to win the Michigan way. That's my point. And he is winning now, but how long's the leash for Michigan to win 10 games, but not play for the Big Ten championship, but not beat Ohio State, and not be in the 4-team playoff as Ohio State is all the time? When does that stop? When do we start saying, is it after this year?
I don't think so. I don't think it's after this year. Not after all the players that he lost.
I'm just wondering. That was my only point here.
If he were to go 6-6 this year, we could have that conversation. If he goes 10-3 again, I don't think we have that, because I think you have to look at what Michigan had become. I mean, the thing that we know most about Michigan between Lloyd Carr and Jim Harbaugh was when they lost to App State, right? That's the most famous game they had.
I agree with you. I guess what I'm asking is, how long do you wait? Is it next year then? If he doesn't do it next year, what if he loses them for a 4th straight year to Ohio State?
Well,
so I mean, that is my only point. When do we start stopping with the, oh, this is all cute, to we need to be winning like Michigan used to win?
A prediction? We won't get to that because he will.
We'll see.
That's what I think.
Okay.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Here we are. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Golic has riled up the maize and blue.
I don't know if I'm getting my point across how I want it to come across, but so be it. I'll keep trying.
Louis Riddick is on the way. Ron Rivera on the way a little later, but right now our friend Will Cain has joined us in studio, and you know he'll make people angry. How are you, Will?
But I'm here to support you right off the bat.
That's what I was told. So you've got your team Greeny on one topic and your team Golic on the other. So start with whichever one you like.
Well, I don't know what I'm on Team Golic right.
I thought I heard you say that as you were walking out of the Michigan conversation.
No, I'm not Team Golic.
Oh, I'm
Michigan.
Sorry.
You're not?
No.
Did he not say to you, I'm Team Golic?
Oh, I have no idea.
I
don't listen to what he says.
Oh,
so
I gotcha.
You must have riled up everybody in the studio so much that somebody hollered out in opposition to your Michigan opinion. Hey, quickly on Michigan, I'll tell you this. Here's why I think you're wrong, Golic. Life is about expectations. In the years of Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez leading up to Jim Harbaugh, set the standard of expectations for Michigan fans.
Right.
And you are suggesting it's Ohio State or bust. And I'm telling you, 2 years of 10-3, Michigan fans are pretty happy.
No. See, and that's where I guess my point is getting lost. I understand that. He has turned them around. My question, and really this is to the diehard Michigan fans, how long can it go? Like I said, if he's 10-3 for 4 years, but is 0-4 against Ohio State, never finishes higher than third in the division, and doesn't make it to the national championship playoffs, is the most ardent Michigan fan. When do you start saying, okay, we need to take that next step? You know what? You know what is important? The Ohio State game. He's 0-2. What happens if he's 0-3 and then 0-4? That's my question. Is not now. He has flipped the switch there. And even though they have not a lot of returning starters, he does such a good job recruiting now that they're still strong in a lot of their units. I get all that. I absolutely do. But that's my question to you, and that's my question to the Michigan fan, the big-time Michigan fan. How long is 10-3, not beating Ohio State, not playing in the Big Ten championship, not being in the Final Four, how long do you go with that and say we're still good?
Probably close to a decade.
No way.
Let me tell you something.
And I don't mean Harbaugh and his job. I'm not talking about that. No way.
Well,
you know the history of Michigan and where they have been? You're telling me that they would put up with that for 10 years to be 0-10 against Ohio State?
Well,
Give me a break.
Hold on. I thought we were talking about Jim Harbaugh and his job. I thought that's exactly what we were talking about.
No. I'm talking about Michigan and your expectations. That's what I'm talking about.
So it's like a mathematical equation at some point. Is at what point does Jim Harbaugh reset the expectations for Michigan fans? You're relying on historical expectations.
He's already
and I understand that.
Things at Michigan. He has already done a great job of that. He's quirky. We look at him. We say, wow, look what he's doing. My question, and it's to Michigan fans, is when do you stop saying, wow, look at him, and saying, we need to win that big game now. Now we need to be in the Big Ten championship. Now we need to beat Ohio State. That's my question.
And you
tell me a decade, I'll tell you you're nuts.
I'm going to try to answer your question.
Okay.
Between now, 2 years into his 20-6 tenure, and a decade, I take closer to the decade than now. He is consistently ranked as a top 5 coach in college football. He has had 2 incredibly winning seasons, and what I'm telling you is he's bought himself time. Look, I'm a Longhorn fan. Mac Brown didn't have the best record against Oklahoma. He had some bad stretches going up against our biggest rivals, but he got a long time, aided by national championship in the middle of that run and often top 5 finishes in the nation. But you can survive not winning against your rival. You can survive not winning at all. And I'm telling you right now, with the hype and performance that Jim Harbaugh's put together, he's got a long time before he starts failing those expectations.
Let me just say, I'm not talking about his job, but I couldn't disagree more with that. If we get into year 5 and we're still talking about the same thing. Really good regular season record, nothing to show for it after that.
Well, a couple of quick thoughts from me. Well, one of them is I totally believe that Michigan is back in a way, if relative to what they were before he got there.
No doubt about that, yes.
I just looked up Nick Saban's first couple of years at Alabama, because Alabama was a brand, kind of like Michigan was a brand, that needed to come back.
Right.
Saban's first year at Alabama, the record was 7-6.
Okay.
They won the Independence Bowl. His second year, they were 12-2. They lost in the Sugar Bowl. His third year, they went 14-0 and won the BCS championship. So it took him 2 years to get them back to real prominence. 3 years, they won the national championship. For Michigan, I'll just give you this. The teams that have won at least 10 games each of the last 2 years, there were 9 of them. Michigan is the only one of them that had a losing record 3 years ago. So look at where he was coming from.
Again, that's not my point. He has turned the program around.
Right.
He has flipped the switch. But again, this is Michigan, who has had a whole lot of success with a guy named Bo that a whole lot of Michigan fans still remember. They're one of the winning. They've been back and forth with Notre Dame as the winningest college of all time. There are expectations. Jim Harbaugh has brought back those expectations. I completely grant you that. My question is, how long is the leash?
Closer to 10 years than 2.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't go anywhere near 10.
Way.
But it's not answering your question.
Right.
But what I'm saying is it ain't going to get there because he's going to start winning in a big way. He already has, in my opinion. Like, he loses 3 games last year by 5 points.
Don't care.
He's got a bad spot, a late kick, and then the bowl game.
Don't care, because in 2 years, if you say he has 5 losses in 2 years but by 3 points, is anybody going to care?
But he won't. He's going to start winning those.
Okay.
They're going to start winning those games.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you. I think is going to happen.
Okay.
I will have to judge how they're losing if they're still losing.
If he wins, then the argument's over. My question, and Will has answered it, 10 years, What do you say?
Way under 10 years.
Well, that was the end of the spectrum I pushed. I didn't say – I said closer to 10 than 2. I feel like you're warming up the pitchforks a little early, and I think he's got closer to 10 than 2 on this. By the way, I didn't bring this just this will causes trouble thing. This was here before I got here.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay?
That's
You're
true.
right. And I'm not talking about Harbaugh's job at all. Believe me, because I know how he's turned it around.
You walked into this. I thought I heard you say to him, I'm Team Golic on this one. Turns out it was actually Bickler. If I had realized it had come from such an irrelevant source, I would never have raised it.
I'd rather be alone.
Will Cain is here with a Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contract. I am told, Will, that you arrived this morning with thoughts on another topic we've been discussing today.
Yes, Greeny, I heard your call, like a bat signal that went up, you saying Isaiah Thomas is getting a bad rap, that people are coming down a little hard on him. As president of the Isaiah Thomas fan club, I think, I wanted to bring these statistics, which I've tried to offer people throughout the last several months now. These are the Kyrie Irving versus Isaiah Thomas stats. Well, no, we talk about points per game, assists per game, true shooting percentage, PER, player efficiency rating, win shares, plus minus. Isaiah Thomas ranks ahead of Kyrie Irving in every one of those stats. Some of them significantly higher. For example, points per game, Kyrie Irving, 11th, Isaiah Thomas, 3rd. Somehow he's been viewed as this throw-in in this trade. And I think he's gotten an incredibly bad rap in this entire process. I'm not a doctor. Often my expertise is way out over the skis of both my personal experience and my education. But I'm not a doctor. So I have no idea how bad the hip is. But I know that the Cavs got a player in Isaiah Thomas. And I'm not sure they had a huge drop-off from Kyrie Irving. Set aside Jay Crowder. Set aside Ante Zizic. Set aside the Brooklyn unprotected number 1 pick. I don't see a massive drop-off for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Listen, Greeny and I both think Jay Crowder is maybe that piece, especially if you're going up against Golden State. You gave me all those numbers. And I'll just ask you this flat out. You're going to have Kyrie or Isaiah. Who are you taking?
For how long? For 1 year? For 5 years? For 10 years?
For a contract. For a contract. 3, 4, 5 years?
I guess straight up, head-to-head, those two guys, I'd take Kyrie because it's a 2-year versus 1-year deal. And it's hard to overlook the hip injury, right? I mean, how do I overlook that? If you grant me Isaiah Thomas's health.
Tell me Isaiah's healthy.
Then it's still because of the contract. But Golic, it's not because of the play on the floor. If I get 1 year of either one of these guys, if you say LeBron gets to compete for Cleveland next year, Isaiah or Kyrie, I'm taking Isaiah. And I understand that somehow that's controversial to everybody, but I've got the stats. I've got Isaiah's performance last year. I've got his heart. I've got intangibles. I've got all kinds of things going in my favor that makes this take a little less scorching than the hot take everyone wants to believe it is.
Right. Okay.
Kyrie Irving is, here's the thing. He is not the number 1 scoring option or the number 1 anything option on his own team. And Isaiah Thomas won't be that either when it comes to Cleveland. So I don't know how much those numbers will be impactful. What I'm saying is if you watched Boston play last year and they won a lot of games, a lot more than anybody saw coming, he was overwhelmingly the primary reason. He was extraordinarily clutch in the fourth quarter. And even if his numbers diminish playing with LeBron, his overall game, I think, should get better if he's healthy because players get better when they play with LeBron James. So I think that the Cavaliers, the whole point for those just joining us that I was making is I think Cleveland is better. I think they're a better team right now, assuming Isaiah can start playing and gets back to relative health. They're a better team than they were a year ago. They're more able to compete for the championship, and I think they win the Eastern Conference.
Does Isaiah make them better or Crowder make them better?
The combination, yeah. I would not just take Isaiah straight up.
I was going to say, if it was a straight-up flip-flop, there's no way you would do it.
No, I would not. Oh, look, Boston got better also because they signed Gordon Hayward, and that's an enormous addition for which they subtracted nothing. So if you're just saying give me Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward versus Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder, that's not even a conversation.
Right. By the way, I think the other person in this entire thing that needs some high fives and back patting is Kobe Altman. I am so impressed with what he's done in a short amount of time. And I love his nature of shooting for the fence. I mean, he calls Golden State and says, you know what? I want Klay Thompson. What do you guys think about Klay Thompson for Kyrie Irving? I mean, to me, that's a laughable trade, but bravo for going for it.
What's laughable about it? I mean, it's laughable only because the Warriors are so good. Why would they change what they've done? But in theory, just individually as players, would you rather have Klay Thompson or Kyrie Irving?
7 days a week and twice on Sunday, I want Klay Thompson over Kyrie Irving.
Really?
Klay Thompson
so if Klay Thompson goes someplace where he is the primary player on his team, you take Klay Thompson. I mean, we're in a vacuum now. and you can start a franchise with either one of those players, you would take Clay over Kyrie, and you wouldn't even think about it.
Not even for a split second. I wouldn't think about it.
Golic, you agree or disagree?
Say that again?
Clay versus Kyrie. Who would you rather build your team around?
Wow. Probably Clay.
He's an all-around basketball player.
He is.
Kyrie is great, but you know Kyrie's hype exceeds his value because of his finishing at the rim and his play in NBA Finals, hitting a three.
But those are pretty big things.
Well, no, they are
not diminishable.
What that skill set is good, but to your question of building a team around, definitely I think Clay gives you more.
Those are good things, Greeny, but so is defense. So is shooting. So is chemistry with the players around you.
The chemistry part of it is obviously a little bit tough to define. I'm not diminishing anything about Klay Thompson. He's a phenomenal player. And candidly, the one time they needed someone to come up huge, he came up huge. He put together one of the great games that you've ever seen when a team had its back against the wall in Game 6 at Oklahoma City 2 years ago. He's the reason that 73-win team even made the final in the first place. So I'm not even going to say he's not clutch. But what I am saying is, he's a guy who has a team where he's not always dependent on. In fact, most of the time he's not dependent upon. If he gives you a lot of offense, it's almost like a plus.
But Kyrie isn't either because he's on a team with LeBron. So if you're now saying take those two and put them in a situation where you need to build around one of them or what one gives you, I'm taking Clay.
To me, it's close. I'm not saying you're crazy for taking Clay, but I think I might take Kyrie.
And I'm not saying it's head and shoulders either, but you're asking me to pick. That's where I go.
Can I throw a very quick piece of news in here? I don't think this is earth-shattering, but we do have, Mike, this from the Cleveland Browns. They have released former Pro Bowl cornerback Joe Hayden. Here's a statement from Sashi Brown. We want to thank Joe for all he's done for the organization. Hugh Jackson said he gave everything he had for the Browns. It's all you could ask for. One way or another, he's out. Joe Hayden's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, according to Shefty, says, quote, tons of interest in him. He'll have a new deal with another team by tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, he absolutely will. Nobody was going to trade for him. I mean, Cleveland put him on the trading block for a guy that's been nicked up and a guy that has a money thing, a salary cap issue. No one was trading for that. They know they're going to cut him, so just wait till they cut him. And Drew's right. He'll have a ton of interest, and he'll be on a team tomorrow. I completely agree with that. But this is the Browns in the direction they're going. From money, I mean, they're doing the Moneyball thing. I mean, they're saving the money. They're doing what they need to do. They would have loved to have gotten a draft pick for that in a trade, but that wasn't going to happen given the situation with Hayden. They were going to have to cut him. So now let's see what they can pull off with Brock Osweiler. That's what I'm waiting to see. They traded for Brock Osweiler, still shook us all. Now he's a, $17 million backup quarterback or $16 million backup. Is that going to happen? Are they going to cut him? Are they going to try and trade him? And who's going to trade for him? I mean, so that to me is even a bigger question. I didn't see Hayden getting traded. I saw them this going exactly how it went. He's going to get cut, and he'll be on another team real soon.
Yeah, I think it'll be fascinating to see how accurate Drew Rosenhaus is, where and how quickly Joe Hayden lands. ESPN just put out its top 100 players in the NFL, and quarterback, to my surprise, is not the top represented position on that list. I believe there's something like 9 or 10 quarterbacks, maybe a few more, but cornerback, I think, was the most represented position in that top 100.
It's probably at this point the second most important position on the field if you have a great one after quarterback. At least that's the way I look at it. Okay, a few other things we have here with Will Cain before we let you go. There's been a lot of conversation, of course, across the country, well beyond the world of sports, about the tragic circumstances right now of the flooding, et cetera, in Houston. We did get a little bit yesterday into the Texas Rangers and their seeming unwillingness to just do whatever it took to accommodate the Astros, and so these games are being played in Tampa this week. Did you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I talked about this yesterday filling in on the Ryan Russillo show, and somebody tweeted at me, Will, the Rangers didn't do anything wrong in this scenario. And I said, yeah, that's true. They didn't necessarily do something wrong, but it's about doing something right. And I'm a Texas Rangers fan and have been since I was a kid. I mean, Julio Franco, Juan Gonzalez, Pudge Rodriguez, these were my guys growing up. But the name on the front of that jersey is Texas, and I would love to see that team represent the entire state of Texas. And anybody that knows anything about Texas, we are xenophobic to the nth degree, to a prideful degree. We own that. And I want to see the Texas Rangers represent the state of Texas. You know, the nature of sacrifice is giving up something, taking a loss for a greater benefit. Sacrifices aren't like, is it a 50-50 wash? We got a late season series. We don't end the playoff run. Does it work out in our benefit in the end? That's not the nature of a sacrifice. A sacrifice is you taking a loss for a greater good. And the Rangers could have sacrificed here for our neighbors to the south. In the end, I'll still be a Ranger fan, and I still love the organization, and I like the job that John Daniels does. I just wish they'd have made a different decision in this scenario.
To argue against my own take on this from yesterday, because you just used the phrase, for the greater good, help me with what greater good would have been served by these games being played in Texas this week. Are we talking about the fact that the Astros would not have lost the home games and thus would have gotten them in September? Is that the greater good that's being served here? Because as the day went on, Mike and I were, Stu Gotts and I actually yesterday
got
went kind of
up.
off on this a little bit. And so I saw a lot of people that were tweeting at me, Greeny, what greater good was sacrificed by what they decided to do here? And I'm sort of struggling to come up with an answer. Is it just as simple as the Astros shouldn't have had to have forfeited some home games? Their fans would like to be able to go to those games in September. They're going to be in the playoffs anyway, obviously, so they're going to have far more important games in October than anything they're going to do in September. So what exactly is it I'm missing out on?
Well, I don't think these aren't like things you put on a balance sheet that you ledger out very easily. These are things that are abstract, like the concept of being neighborly, the concept of helping out your fellow team in the state. It does come down to, it'd be helpful to have a home series in Houston later, perhaps beyond the revenue to the Houston Astros, who nobody's really weeping for their bottom line, but the city and the citizens of Houston having something to look forward to participate in late in the season. And even just simple geography. Travel a little bit, little less of a distance to play baseball. Instead of Tampa Bay, it's up to Dallas-Fort Worth. Maybe some displaced Houstonians could see something that distracts them from all the tough times going on down in South Texas. Again, I don't know that you can do a mathematical equation and say, Tampa Bay versus DFW, not that big a difference. It's just about being a representative of the state of Texas.
It just seemed like, again, from the optic side of it, it's a word we use probably too much, is everybody thought the Rangers would say, all right, what can we do to help? What can help this? Flip-flop the series? Okay, we'll do that. And that would kind of be the end of it. Instead, it seemed like they thought about it and made a business decision. And they're getting basically, some people are, giving them a hard time for making a business decision, which we're saying they had the thought of their fans in mind, as they said. And obviously, if there's a wild card spot, we'll see. But the initial thought I think a lot of people thought would be is, what can we do to help? And if it's just flip-flopping the series, that's what we'll do.
Mike and Mike reminding you can watch and listen to your favorite games and your favorite shows whenever you want, wherever you are on the ESPN app. It's simple. It's easy. It keeps you connected. Take ESPN with you anytime, anywhere. Download the ESPN app now. Quickly, Will, before we let you go, the fight over the weekend, obviously now we've sort of settled into the post-fight reality. We've got the big boxing fight coming up September 16th. You got Conor McGregor figuring out what his next move is. What are your overriding thoughts on the state of combat sports with those being the big names?
Number one, I'm looking forward to Triple G Canelo, and Mayweather-McGregor helped for me in building the hype for Triple G Canelo. So I'll be buying that fight in no small part because I'm back into boxing mode somewhat because all the hype and months and years leading up to this other one. I don't know where you guys were. I heard a lot of people talking about, wow, participation trophies being handed out left and right to Conor McGregor. And Jeremy Schaap tweeted, moral victories aren't what they used to be. I'm sorry, I disagree. I see real value in putting yourself out there and taking a risk and trying something for the first time. And I get it. Conor got a lot of money to do so. But he put his reputation on the line. He put embarrassment on the line. And he comes out, with the metaphorical bloody nose and muddy face. And I like that. Sometimes I like losses better than undefeated records. Sometimes I like the idea of taking a risk and taking a loss to try something hard. I said this on the radio. I want to tell my two sons, don't go through life undefeated. Go through life with losses. So I know you went out there and risked everything to push your own limits. I don't know that Conor McGregor is the perfect representative of all that, but I came away from that fight going, that's a pretty awesome performance.
I think in the big picture, he's the biggest winner. I think if you look at everything that happened as a consequence of that fight, and there were a lot of winners coming out of it, including Mayweather getting to 50-0, and I do agree with you, including Oscar De La Hoya and everyone connected to Triple G and Canelo, because I think it will raise that fight. But I think the biggest winner was McGregor. I think his brand grew exponentially as a result of the fight and his performance.
Yeah, it did, because he's still going. I mean, Mayweather, listen, we always have to put in, if I loved what you said, but I'll always take undefeated. I don't mind. But with Mayweather, there's a little more baggage to it that we all have to understand. So if you take that out of it, I like the undefeated. I don't want like what he did or respect at all what's going on with this guy outside the ring and the issues that he had with domestic violence. But listen, I bought it completely expecting a Mayweather win and an entertaining fight and hoping for it, and that's what we got. So I was perfectly happy with everything, and I agree, McGregor is a huge winner coming out of this thing.
We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line unless they're good enough to make their way to our studio, as Louis Riddick has done talking football with us here. Good morning.
How you guys doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm a little uptight in this suit. I'm not used to being in a suit here. I am envious every time I come in and see you guys.
And before you have to run right to Sports Center,
I know,
or you take the jacket and tie off. And
I'm tempted to take this tie off right now.
You could be wearing a Mad Russian golf pullover.
Mad Russian golf course out.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a golf course. The great name for a golf course.
If I could play golf, I'd wear golf gear.
Mad Russian.
The Mad Russian. Mm-hmm. All right, I got a lot of things for you here, Riddick. So let's start jumping into these immediately. Yeah. Matt Stafford becomes the richest player in pro football history, and some people think that the numbers don't make sense. What did you think?
Well, I think when you start looking at numbers, especially don't even have me get into this whole win-loss record, because we all know this. It's the ultimate team game, right? We know that Matthew Stafford has been subject to inferior offensive lines, terrible running games, terrible play selection as far as rush percentage. They don't even try to run the football. So the guy right now has had so much put on his plate over let's just say the past 4 or 5 years that I don't think numbers really signify and really kind of encapsulate what he really means to this football team and why he is worth the money that he is getting. Because I'll tell you this, just take him off the football team, all right? Let's just let him hit free agency at 29 years old, given what he's already done in the National Football League. What do you think is going to happen to Bob Quinn then? He's going to be looking for a job, and he should be looking for a job if you don't sign this guy. Look, Matthew's now going to has really started to introduce a new paradigm as far as how you value quarterbacks. And quarterbacks right now are not trying to really slot themselves in with other guys relative to what their statistics are. They're looking for a percentage of the salary cap. They're looking for a percentage of what we think we are worth relative to how the salary cap is going up, and that's how they're starting to base their salaries. And if you think Matthew Stafford's going to stay the highest paid quarterback for very long, he's not.
We did this in over-under. Kirk Cousins could be a free agent quarterback, and the last true free agent quarterback we saw was Peyton Manning at his age and with all the neck surgeries, and he got $38 million guaranteed. Kirk Cousins is 29, will be 30 probably when this goes on. Could have teams bidding. The guaranteed for Stafford was $92 million. Mm-hmm. We put the over-under at $99.5 million guaranteed for Kirk Cousins.
You know what? I'll tell you what, Mike. I don't know if Kirk's going to surpass him. Now, me personally, I wouldn't have Kirk surpass him, but I'll tell you this. Either. Matt Ryan is going to surpass him, and Aaron Rodgers is absolutely going to have us all sitting here rolling on the floor going, now that's what I'm talking about as far as guaranteed money. I mean, it's going to go over $100 million.
Here's the thing, though, because we all agree on this.
Yeah.
So let's get to something where it becomes more complicated. You're a person who someday it may be your job to be putting together rosters.
Sure.
And now you're trying to put together a roster with a hard salary cap around one guy who's making $30 million. How complicated is that?
Oh, it can be challenging. I mean, obviously, when you have that much money invested in a quarterback position, it makes you have to be more efficient with your cap dollars elsewhere, but that's the name of the game. So I'll tell you what, I would rather do that than the flip side, meaning I don't have a quarterback that I think I can win with, and then the pressure is on to make sure I nail the rest of the 52 roster positions on the football team. Because if you think that's easier, then you just don't quite get how tough it is really to build a roster. Matthew Stafford gives the Detroit Lions, to use an old acronym that is kind of worn out, the best chance to win by far. And if you don't sign him, you deserve to get run out of there as a front office guy. You had to give him this. The Detroit Lions had prepared for this. They knew it was coming. They knew Tom Condon was going to get him this kind of money. And the money for quarterbacks, it's just a different entity right now when you're talking about guaranteed money and average per years for quarterbacks. We know that it is, so this is just the way it's going to be, for the foreseeable future.
How about what now? If you're in that organization with the Colts, what's the thought about Andrew Luck? I mean, because I had said a while ago, oh, he's not throwing that. I'm like, he's got time. Well, time is now running out. The sand in the hourglass is running out, whether he goes on PUP, misses a game or two, or doesn't. What's your thought?
Oh, well, I'm worried about a whole bunch of things because without Andrew, look, he's one of those special kinds of players that you know that the offense was set up for him to carry. And you know when it came crunch time, they don't have a running game to lead on. They don't have an offensive line to lead on like the Dallas Cowboys. And they don't have a defense right now that continues to keep losing players due to injury that can carry the day either. So complementary football isn't something that they can lean on. So I'm in a full-blown – I don't know if I'm in a full-blown panic, but I'm sitting here going, this season's getting away from me. The more and more he doesn't throw the football and the more that it becomes a possibility that he is not on the football field, and that is not a position you want to be in. Simple as that.
I would say that I'm in a full-blown panic. Mike and Mike Louis Riddick in studio with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Here's how valuable a quarterback is. And I agree with you that you can't judge them based solely on wins and losses. But Matthew Stafford has been the best thing that has happened to the Lions since they had Barry Sanders. And he's had them in the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. So they have won games.
Yeah.
But luck is a great example. Without luck, they may be the worst team in the sport. With luck, they might win the division. They probably, most people wouldn't pick them, but you wouldn't put it past them with him on the field. So that's how valuable a quarterback can be.
There's no question about it. Look, I know a lot of people will like to point to the fact that his interception total has gone up. He's made some bad decisions in crucial moments. He doesn't protect himself the way that he should. But let's just take all of that away. Let's just take his contributions and set them over here, and let's just see what Scott Tolzien can do now with no running game and a defense that leaks like a sieve and a secondary that can't stop anybody. I mean, what do you think is going to happen to them? And let's not even – and then we haven't even really talked about the effect that this is going to have on the confidence on the rest of the football team that you can't measure on a stat sheet, because you know this. When a guy like that goes down, Mike, and you know that your main guy is going to be sitting on the bench, you know what that does to everyone else's confidence. Many people go into a game going, well, I hope we can compete. I hope we can stay in it. And as soon as this tide starts turning – people pack it in. They just do, because they don't think that they really have a chance.
The best of Mike and Mike.
It does bring back one of the great moments in the history of our show. And, Louis, you're a person who I think could chime in on this.
Yeah.
I feel Golic was 100% right. I was ready to actually start a movement. There is no reason why when you go to a restaurant and you as an adult order off the children's menu, they should charge you more money.
They upcharged me.
Did they really?
We were coming back from a show somewhere, and a lot of the people on the staff, we probably had 5 people from the staff. We were having lunch in a restaurant in an airport, and I was going to buy lunch for everybody, so everybody's ordering, and I didn't like some of the things that they had on the one side, and the kid side I did. So I ordered, and they said, well, that's $2 extra. I'm like, for what? I'm just ordering this food. I like this food better than that food. They charged me $2 extra.
Is there some kind of expense or some kind of cost that they incur because you eat it instead of a kid?
I don't know, but I thought it was wrong.
You know what? Hey, the kids' mac and cheese, I'm in it.
That's exactly what I got.
Everywhere.
I thought it was the sliders. Wasn't it
no,
the sliders?
you're right. It was the sliders.
Yeah.
And by the way, they weren't even – I thought they'd be better than they were.
Kids' mac and cheese is legit.
Without question.
All right, so Louis Riddick, again, he can cover pretty much anything you're looking for here. Let's run through a few more topics that we have for you quickly. I have been interested to hear your take both on Twitter and on ESPN on Jared Goff, who is a person that a lot of people are ready to give up on after 1 year in a bad system. You're not.
No, I'm not at all. Look, I think he looks totally different this year, and I think Sean McVay, so far, so good, man. I mean, you put in a West Coast quick strike, quick decision-making, move-the-pocket type of offense that really fits his skill set. Jared looks totally different this year through the preseason. So far, albeit against watered-down defenses that aren't game planning for him, but the kid's demeanor looks different. His touch looks different. His accuracy looks different. His rhythm looks different. And if he can carry that into the regular season, and they have much better weapons now on the perimeter. I know Sammy Watkins gets hurt a lot, but that is a good big-time player that you have there. Cooper Kupp, the rookie wide receiver, looks spectacular in the slot. And Robert Woods is their big-time free agent that they signed from Buffalo also. So him and Sammy Watkins together, that's not a bad combination. I think Jared Goff is going to have a heck of a year. I think as long as they can keep the offensive line humming and Todd Gurley has a big year, and defensively they can play some complimenting football and put him in good situations, get Aaron Donald signed, hint.
That's where we're going.
This kid is going to have a solid year. I know people want to just crush him right now and kill him for all the stuff from Hard Knocks and stuff. Look, they have a much better coaching staff that right now understands how to actually develop a quarterback. Let's just see how this year pans out.
To me, the O-line is big here. Can they get a running game? And if in this system he gets the ball out of his hand quicker, which is good, he won't get hit as much with the O-line. I agree with you. All we can do is base stuff off of what we see. And you can say vanilla defense is all you want, but he looks better.
No question.
The arrow is going in the right direction, so now we have to see what happens when the games start. You mentioned the name, so let's go with it. You're Les Snead. You're the GM of the Rams. How are you dealing with it because we talked about Andrew Luck. That's if he's hurt, he can't play.
Yeah.
This is by choice right now. What's going on? By choice of the Rams and not giving Donald what he wants, and Donald thinking I'm not getting what I think I deserve, so I'm not showing up.
Yeah.
How do you deal with this if you're in that front office?
I don't know what Les is thinking. I don't know what Kevin Demoff is thinking. I don't know what ownership is thinking out there. But to me, they're not thinking very clearly. This kid, from the time he was a senior in college, all through the Senior Bowl, through the Combine, through the pre-draft workouts in the run-up, to the time he stepped foot on the football field for the Rams, has done nothing but dominate, and you haven't heard a single word out of him off the field in terms of any kind of controversy, any kind of bad decision-making. No one questions his commitment to football, and no one questions his talent. His tackles for loss, quarterback sacks, quarterback pressures, quarterback hits, his overall effect on this organization and on this defense has been more than what they could have ever hoped to be when they drafted him. So I don't understand how right now, given the fact that some of the contract extensions and some of the money they have paid other players, why this guy has not been made a priority and why this wasn't something you weren't anticipating a long time ago, that you needed to take care of him when the time came up that you could take care of him. I know they can control his contract and keep his salary down right now and that they don't have to extend him. But just because you don't have to doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Because when you do things like this, I mean, you are sending a bad message that Aaron Donald is not on your football team right now trying to get you ready for the regular season to help you win football games. If you don't take care of this guy, then who do you take care of? I mean, seriously, who do you take care of? And you find me somebody right now who says if Aaron Donald wasn't on the street, there wouldn't be 31 teams right now absolutely falling all over themselves, paying him whatever he wanted.
I'm looking at that draft. That draft, the top pick that year was Clowney, then Greg Robinson, O-lineman for the Rams, who's not there anymore. Blake Bortles, Sammy Watkins, Khalil Mack. That was your top five. I feel pretty comfortable. There are a bunch of other names here that we can go down as well, but you tell me if you disagree. That of the first round, the two guys, and I'm trying to go through really quick to see if I'm missing anyone. The two best guys in that draft were Aaron Donald and Zach Martin. Two guys that came out.
I wouldn't argue with that.
The only time I have seen Zach Martin get beat in a pass rush was Senior Bowl practice. He was over, I think, at left guard, and I think it was Aaron Donald who may have beat him that time. They have both gotten into the league and have absolutely dominated their position. Zach's going to get paid big time. We know that. And Donald will as well. So I'm with you. You just take care of these guys.
It's an irrelevant debate. I mean, Odell was drafted that year also. He might be the best player in that group. But I mean, neither here nor there.
I know what you're saying.
I agree with you. But the Giants aren't extending Odell either because they have control of the contract for a fourth year and even a fifth if they want to go that way. And why give them the money now when you don't have to?
But I think the Giants are in a little bit different of a situation, and they may have some other things that they're kind of waiting to see how it plays out. Look, Odell. Look, there's people who fall on both sides of the ledger with him as far as what his level of maturity is and how dependable he will be and how comfortable you should be paying him right now. I mean, there's people who say, look, that's not an issue. Some people go, well, let's just wait and see here. And look, I understand that. And the Giants are very much so a rock-solid organization that right now you don't really question what they do because they have a pretty good track record of understanding when to take care of players and doing things the right way. What track record do the Rams have of doing anything right by their players right now? And Aaron Donald is the best thing going in L.A. by far.
Yep.
By far. And when you do this kind of thing, and look, they just took care of Tavon Austin a couple of years ago.
Yeah, $42 million, I think it was.
Give me a break. Yeah. So what are you saying? It's because you messed up that contract, you now want to go, well, let's see if we can kind of make up for it by not paying the best player we've had here in years? This doesn't make any sense. This is bad business as far as I'm concerned.
Get no argument out of me. All right, two things quickly for you. You're not only a front office guy, but you were a player for a long time. For the hit that he had on Anthony Sherman, did Vontaze Burfict deserve to be suspended?
You know what? If you just kind of take it in a vacuum like that, does he deserve to be suspended? No, I don't think he does. I think if it's a different player, he doesn't get suspended. He maybe gets warned. Yeah. He maybe gets told, hey, look, these are kind of the unnecessary hits that we don't need to have in the game. You need to take care of your brothers out here. And even though Anthony Sherman's on a different team, you don't really need to do that. But Vontaze has a long history of doing these kinds of things, of taking shots at people that aren't unnecessary. And look, the viciousness of the game is something, quite honestly, I don't care how they're trying to change the game. I love that part of the game. I just do. So I don't mind people trying to play the game and impose their will. But look, this is a guy who right now, they're trying to send a message that, look, you have walked the line and crossed the line one too many times. You just have. Did they overshoot? okay. I mean, that's a subjective opinion that all of us have. Some of us will say, no, they shouldn't suspend him. Some of us say, this is the kind of guy who maybe should be even kicked out of the league because of how dirty he has been in the past.
I guess that's my point. Where did he cross the line there? If you want to say it was an unnecessary hit, you want to say that, okay. But to me, that's not suspendable.
Right.
He didn't do anything illegal. He didn't hit him in the head. He didn't hit him from the side or behind. So while
his reputation is hurting.
Exactly.
It just is. And look, I like the viciousness of the game, but that's just the way it is, man.
I ran out of time to Golic's delight. I ran out of time before I got my Jets question in, so we'll have to do that off the air and relate Lewis's answers to you. He's got to go do some
run so you don't get the question. Run, Lewis,
Back
run.
in just a moment. Louis Riddick, thanks a million.
First time skydiving? Sure is. Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait. Should we be like in tandem? Tandem? That's a great idea. Are you a certified instructor? No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertain